Historically, home ownership for people of color in Minnesota has been challenging. In our state, the home ownership rate among white households is 77%, compared to 24% among black households. In tonight's Voices for Change, Fox 9's Bisi Onile-Ere speaks with Julie Gugin, president of the Minnesota Homeownership Center, on the push for equitable access to the American dream.
The Twin Cities have the lowest rate of black ownership than anywhere in the country. How do discriminatory practices from decades ago speak to what we see today?
Yeah, I think we can look back decades, if not centuries, when the government, lending institutions, realtors, and others imposed a variety of really predatory and racist barriers to home ownership for communities of color, in particular black households. So things like redlining, where the federal government would literally draw red lines on a map and indicate where loans could not be made. And of course, they were in typically neighborhoods where communities of color were living. There were also racial covenants, so there were actual deed restrictions on recorded documents that indicated who could or couldn't own that particular property. And then I would say practices that were most recently implemented were the predatory lending practices that we saw during the Great Recession, which specifically targeted black households and led to an amazing loss of homeownership and community equity in the black community.
The housing disparities are glaring. We hear about the statistics, yet the inequities for people of color persist. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I think there are a variety of reasons that it persists. Number one is it's not just housing equity that is, it's not just housing disequity that we face here in the Twin Cities, or that households of color face here in the Twin Cities, but it's inequity in employment, in income, in education, in access to community resources.
What needs to be done then?
My organization is working on several different fronts. Number one, we focus primarily on homebuyer education and financial coaching. So we do know that lower income households will struggle more to meet credit requirements, to save for down payment, to access the resources that they need to purchase a home. And that's why our organization is here.
So how does affordable housing play into all this? Because we always hear about how expensive it is to rent and even own a home in Minnesota.
We look at home ownership and affordable, sustainable home ownership as one of the best ways for households to create wealth and to generate assets for their family. In fact, the median net worth of homeowners is 44 times that of renters. So when you think about a long-term approach to generating wealth, homeownership is the ticket for most people in this country, including communities of color. But homeownership also provides stability in other ways for families. We know that homeowners' children are far more likely to do better in school. They succeed in school. Stable homeownership leads to stable employment. And homeowners are far more likely to be engaged in their community. They're more likely to vote.
The death of George Floyd has really renewed this movement towards social justice. What have your takeaways been over the past couple of months?
The primary takeaway is we still have a lot of work to do as a community. And the statistics that you shared are evidence of that black households in Minnesota do not have and do not currently enjoy the same benefits of homeownership that white households do. And we need to fix that. And I think there are ways for us to do that, whether it's through funding homebuyer education, creating policies that make lending products and down payment products more available in communities of color, and making sure that we're working with financial institutions to help them understand how to better reach consumers. One of the things that we talk about with our lender and realtor partners is you need to hire people of color who are who are making the loan transaction possible, who are making the real estate transaction possible. We need more individuals of color in that business to help generate some of that trust in community.
Julie, thank you so much for weighing in. We truly appreciate your perspective.
Thank you very much.